You know what? We're going to go from one egregious judicial overreach to another. In my humble opinion, people aren't talking about it, but there was another. Let me take that back. Julie Kelly is talking about it. In fact, I follow Julie Kelly. She is where I get my immediate updates on the January 6th persecution. She tweeted out earlier today that another man was sentenced to, my math is not so good, 55 months. 55 months for, I believe it was, obstruction of congressional proceedings. We're going to read. I mean, people try not to get discouraged. The first step towards, digging yourself out of a hole is appreciating that we're in a hole. This is from the Department of Justice for immediate release. What's the date today, people? It's Monday, August 29th. District of Columbia man, DC, sentenced to 55 months in prison for actions during January 6th Capitol breach. They're calling it a Capitol breach. The Justice Department is calling it a Capitol breach. AOC is calling it a setup, that people were let in. Cops opened up the doors. One man was acquitted because a judge came to the conclusion that cops, based on video evidence, Capitol Police, opened the doors. When you have spin coming out of the United States Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia, when you have spin and qualifiers on immediate press releases announcing egregious penalties for what we're going to see is, unless I'm mistaken, a nonviolent crime, Houston, we have a problem. Yada, yada, yada. Defendant encountered Senate Minority Leader while illegally inside the building. So we had an encounter. I mean, at least they didn't call it an assault, a verbal assault, because I don't even think you could get away with that type of qualification. A District of Columbia man was sentenced today to 55 months in prison. Can we read this? Let me see if I can make it a little bigger. Yeah, there we go. On a felony charge stemming from his actions during the breach of the U.S. Capitol. His actions and the actions of others disrupted a joint session of the U.S. Congress convened to ascertain and count the electoral votes related to the presidential election. It disrupted it. Did they not finish the count that very same day? So it disrupted it. For, what was it, 6 hours? 4 hours? 6 hours? 8 hours? Joshua Pruitt, 40, is now going to have 5 years of his life stolen. Was sentenced to the District of Columbia. According to court documents, Pruitt, who was in the process of joining the Proud Boys, I'm curious to know what that means, attended a rally with members of the group, which describes itself as pro-Western fraternal organization for men who refuse to apologize for creating the modern world, aka Western chauvinists. All right, so the dude's allegedly in the process of joining the Proud Boys. I don't know what goes into that. Whatever. At approximately 12:30, he began marching from the area of the rally to the Capitol. At about 2:10, he was illegally on the restricted grounds of the Northwest Lawn. Was he let in? Was he let in by police? I'm curious. I don't know. I'm asking the question here. He was wearing a tactical glove. Okay, I need to Google that afterwards. I don't know. I don't even know what that means. With knuckle pads. So like maybe like a bike glove or a lumberjack glove. A tactical glove with knuckle pads. Hold on, I'm going to have to Google this afterwards. He saw rioters push through a line of law enforcement officers and advance up the stairs to the Upper West Terrace. Pruitt followed them, using a piece of fencing as a makeshift ladder to climb onto the stairs. Pruitt advanced up to the stairs and toward the Capitol building. He leapt over a railing before entering the Capitol through the Senate wing door. Was that door opened? At approximately 2:14, he threw a wooden sign and was one of the first rioters to enter the crypt. After rioters breached the police line in the crypt, Pruitt moved towards the Capitol Visitor Center. There, he picked up a chair and tossed it. He then continued in the direction of the Senate subway. Meanwhile, Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer and his security detail, who had evacuated from the Senate, walked up a ramp towards the elevators in the northern part of the visitor center. A member of the security detail saw Pruitt approaching. As a result, Senator Schumer and his security detail reversed course, running away from the elevator and back down the ramp. Pruitt, they're trying to describe this in the most dramatic manner possible. And I'm still trying to do the calculation of 5 years in my head. Pruitt climbed out a window so that was the extent, by the way. That was the extent of the sheer violence of it all. He climbed out a window to leave the building at approximately 2:52. 30 minutes to steal 5 years from his life. He was arrested the night of January 6th for violating a curfew in place in Washington, and federal charges were filed against him the next day. Pruitt pleaded guilty on June 3rd, 2022, to a charge of obstruction of an official proceeding. They just had this entire description to add color to everything. He pleaded guilty to a charge, which means one charge of obstruction of an official proceeding. I should not exaggerate or round up. 12, 24, 36, 48. That's 4.5 years. Plus, I don't know if he's been in jail since. One charge of obstruction of an official proceeding, 5 years in jail. He will be placed on 3 years supervised release after his release. He must pay $2,000. Does anyone think that this punishment fits the crime? Again, I don't care if you think it was a insurrection. I don't care if you think. I'll grant you everything that you think about the events of January 6th. We've just read through the loftiest, I'll call it judicial porn. We just read through judicial porn to describe in illustrious detail how he entered the building, how he threw a chair with all of his might. This is cruel and unusual punishment. This is not a punishment that fits the crime. The case was prosecuted. You spelled persecuted wrong. Whatever, yada, yada. The case was investigated by the FBI's Washington field office. Valuable assistance was provided by the U.S. Capitol Police. In the 19 months since January 6, more than 860 individuals have been arrested in nearly all 50 states for crimes related to the breach of the U.S. Capitol, including over 260 individuals charged with assaulting or impeding law enforcement. Well, except that's not. This guy wasn't charged with, didn't plead guilty to assaulting anybody. He pleaded guilty to a charge of obstruction of an official proceeding. 5 years less 5 months. All right. Yeah, remember all that violence from the Disrupt January 2021 protest? When they wanted to disrupt Trump's protest, Trump's inauguration, they set a limo on fire, smashed windows. Do you remember the Summer of Love 2020? Where in those cases, politicians were raising bail to get people out of jail. This guy pleaded guilty. Probably thought he was going to get a slap on the wrist. He got the DC treatment. DC. He got DC'd. Double something. I can't think of something. Virtually everyone involved. Not everyone, because some people did stand trial. Virtually everyone involved with Disrupt January 2021, whatever it was called, January 2017. Virtually all charges were dropped. Summer of Love protests, virtually all charges were dropped. No bags. In fact, you look good for 50. I'm not yet 50. 43. It's an absolute outrage. It's an absolute outrage. And you got people complaining about Griner, the basketball star in Russia, 9 years in a criminal justice system that convicts 98%, disproportionate sentence for smuggling drugs into a foreign country. But 5 years less 5 months for pleading guilty to obstruction proceedings, and crickets, shameless political hack hypocrites. Not you, anyone who is not out there outraged about this. Political hack partisan hypocrites. Don't let bad news age me, Viva. It's not the bad news that's going to age me. It's just the perpetual fear of impending doom. 55 months. Hey, where's Al Sharpton? I do it. Look, it's not to pat myself on the back. I just have a sense of justice. Griner is a very long jail sentence, but you're smuggling drugs into Russia. What do you expect? If the operating theory now is that the U.S. is no better than Russia, all right, what did you expect then? But clamoring injustice when Griner gets 9 years for smuggling drugs into Russia, and then political crickets when this dude gets 5 years for pleading guilty to one count of obstructing Congress. It's an absolute joke. It's almost as hypocritical as raging against the bad words that some big burly dude hurled against Chrystia Freeland, and then not saying anything about Justin Trudeau calling Canadians fringe minority with unacceptable views, misogynists, racists, conspiracy theorists, anti-vaxxers who just take up space. You know what? Segway's on, people.